Somebody does.
So I can reach all the way down to you.
Hi, everybody. Oh, that got the attention. Good afternoon. Well, here we are at Legion Branch 76 in Minnow Lake. How many of you have been here for the first time? Wow. How come you haven't been here before? Because this happens to be what we consider to be one of the best Legion locations in all of Greater Canada. You can't see out right now, but we have the blinds full, but as you know, we are located over Ramsey Lake. It's a beautiful location. Over the years, I've been a member here for many years, and we've been attempting to create a residence here. Could be a seniors residence, but we thought this is a great location, and we're still working on that. It's been, I don't know how many, 30, 50 years we've been working on that, and eventually, like I believe it was Sault Ste. Marie has just done renovations to their Legion. They have built a residence, and they've incorporated the Legion into the structure as well too. It's something that we could use as a model here for Sudbury. Well, we want to thank you all for coming out. This has been a campaign that most of us would probably like to forget in the future. As a matter of fact, it's almost over before it began. And we have individuals here, sort of not the same gang we wanted, because some have other commitments, others have, well, they've refused to come out. And we don't even have a chance to ask them why they've refused to come out. We want to thank the individuals who've set up tables along the side here representing some of our contestants. And also we have a table here for CARP. I'm John Lindsay, I'm president of CARP, that's the Canadian Association of Retired Persons. We have some of our... Thank you, Daryl, thank you. One of our board members. And Pat is down here, and Valley is over here. And we have some of our members are out there working the polls today. As you know, this is an advanced day. It's possible that you can cast your vote today, right until, is it 8 o'clock tonight? 8 o'clock tonight. Those of us here in the Minnow Lake area, Minnow Lake Place is one of the polling stations, but there's polling stations throughout the community, perhaps not as well advertised as they might be, but we're hoping that people will get out and, of course, exercise their franchise. I always like that term, exercise your franchise. That sounds like work, but it's not very much work, and we know that seniors, those over the age of 50 probably, are the cohort that's most likely to vote, that feels the most responsibility to vote. To young people, well, a lot of them feel that there's not too much use in actually getting out and deciding who's going to represent them, which is really a shame because this is democracy in action. We do have one other person who's not at the table, but wanted to be at the table, of course, because she's a contestant, Natalie Labby from Nickelbell. And she didn't want us to mention why she's not here, but apparently, according to Mark, he's already published it in Sudbury.com. So Natalie is currently on her honeymoon in Mexico, which was arranged apparently 2 years ago. So, and she had a tough time convincing him. So she didn't want the opportunity to pass by, right? We want to talk about the Ontario Health Coalition. They have a table down here, and of course, with our surveys that we've taken over the years of CARP members, healthcare and housing happen to be the #2 concerns. And I think that's not only for seniors, but I think that especially for the younger cohort, you know, the possibility of, you know, growing up, leaving the nest and having your own home, is something that I have a grandchild right now, finished his engineering degree, is working and doing quite well, but he's still at home. Because in the Toronto area, he's going to have to work for 20 years in order to get a down payment for a house, unless he decides to move for Sudbury, where it's only going to be 15 years. Is that right? Something like that. And as I mentioned, our table over here, our card table, we have a lot of goodies to give away. We have a healthcare kit. We have jar openers. What else do we have there? Don't forget our magazines too, if you're not already a member. And oh yes, our notepad. So if anyone, we have some pens over there too, notepad. So if any of you would like to have a question for any of our candidates, you can fill out the notepad. If you have a pen, I think we have some pens there as well too. And it's time to get the show underway. So, how are we going to do this, Mark? We want to thank Mark Gentili, who is the editor, the big honcho at Sudbury.com. And he has done this for us before and done a great job, so we thought we'd have him come back again. And since he did not break a leg on either of his cross-country skiing or downhill skiing adventures, he is here. Both legs are working, and he's got his skiing sneakers on.
That's right.
But we wanted to comment on the fact that he's the only person here who's wearing a tie. So we decided. Do you want to have a comment on that? No, all right.
No, that's fine.
I want to say, Jamie, he did reveal to me that the campaign has done one good thing for him. He's lost 15 pounds. Isn't that great? I thought he looked pretty good, you know, when he came in. Mind you, he lost a little more hair too. Yeah. So, in any event, we will be, Natalie has agreed to provide us with 2 minutes of opening statement and 2 minutes of closing statement. Unfortunately, we won't be able to ask her any questions, but at least you'll be able to hear what she has to say, because we don't know if she's actually in Mexico yet, because, you know, Sunwing Vacations decided, we're not going to let you out of the country. They're going to bring back those who were down there, but I guess they're eventually going to get out there. But in any event, so it's time to welcome our moderator for this event, and we have a very civil group of contestants up here. Well, maybe I spoke out of turn there, but I mean, if David Robinson isn't civil, nobody's civil. You know, that's what they say about economists. You know, they always tell you how wonderful their predictions were after, and nobody remembers what they predicted in the first place. So, economists hold a special place in our heart, right? Slightly behind lawyers.
Wow. Wow, dropping bombs on the candidates.
Give away the mic.
Started yet.
Give him the mic.
I'm going to resist. Anyway, here he is, Mark Gentili.
Why don't you give yourselves a round of applause for, you know, taking democracy seriously and showing up to this event. So as John said, we're going to start with opening statements. Everyone will get a couple of minutes to speak to you. Then we will move on to some questions. I've got some questions that have been supplied to me, including this thing from Dot Klein that I'm going to attempt to decipher. And after, you know, if the question is for a specific candidate or party, I will let that candidate answer, and then, well, I mean, I don't imagine Frans and Jamie are going to be debating each other's platforms all that much, but
That would be awesome.
that would be neat. But perhaps David might have some questions. Then we'll finish all off with some closing statements. And if, as John said, if you have questions, write them down or yell them out, and we'll try and get to those. Good. Everyone understand the rules?
Yes.
Good show. Who would like to start? Who would like to, we'll go with Jamie? He's the closest.
Been voluntold. You stand or not stand, up to you.
I'll stand so everyone in the back can see. My name is Jamie West. I'm the NDP candidate for Sudbury. Je m'appelle Jamie West, je suis le candidat NPD pour Sudbury. I was thinking about what I was going to say today. What I want to share with you is different than the story. I've shared my story in the past. I've been the MVP for the last 7 years. We're all candidates right now. But I want to share what I've been hearing at the doors. I'm hearing from seniors whose the husband, the entire check is going towards rent, and the wife's entire check is going towards their other bills, their telephone, cable, and they're going to food banks. I'm hearing from young moms who have 2 kids, and she's telling me that if her check is late, direct deposit check is late, there'll be an NSF because everything coming in is immediately going out. And that she won't be able to cover that charge for the NSF charge if anything is late. I am hearing again and again from people who are struggling to make ends meet. And at the same time, I'm hearing from a conservative candidate who hasn't come to any of the debates, just like the one did before, saying that he's going to be the voice of the people of Sudbury. That he's going to have a seat at the table. This isn't unique to Sudbury. The high rent prices. In Sudbury, rent's gone up $375 since Doug Ford was elected. This is happening all over the place. In down south in rural Ontario, they have emergency rooms closing on a regular basis. Those are primarily conservative ridings. Do not trust somebody who cannot speak in a debate, can't speak on their own behalf during the election, to be your voice in the future. I am proud of my record of being your voice. I'm known for being at every event, for talking to you at your house, in your workplace, in your organizations. I want to continue to do that. I want to amplify and echo your voice. That's what's important to me. People are really struggling. We need help today. We need to change how things are done. We need more than just $200 every 7 years to try to buy your vote. On February 27th, I'm hoping you vote for me, Jamie West. Thank you.
Just before we move on to Mr. Robinson, as you notice, we have laid out spaces here for the other candidates, but these 3 diehards are the ones who turned out to speak to you today. So here we go. For the Green Party, David Robinson.
He's taking his coat off, folks. Seriously.
Just responding quickly to this comment about housing. The NDP doesn't have a policy that will affect the housing market. You cannot solve housing, have cheap housing, and have capital gains on housing. Those of us who own houses and are getting capital gains, we're really doing well. But you can't give the next generation cheap housing if you're going to give away the land, if you're going to allow people to take capital gains. Okay, so I'm David Robinson. I'm an economist, and as you can see, I get very serious about economics. As your Green candidate, my job today is to remind you just how damn serious the climate change that's coming is. Okay? And if you're Green, or if you're serious and understand that problem, a vote for me is the only clear way of giving a signal about that, because no other party has it high up in their agenda. Okay? If you want to make a clear signal, only Green vote. Now, I have another goal here. What can an MPP do for our community? Well, I think an MPP has to bring together all the political voices in this city and put systematic, sustained pressure on the government. And that'll be Ford, right? He's running against Trump. He's going to win in Sudbury against Trump. You get a choice, perhaps, if you're a Liberal, whether you're going to support Jamie or the backbencher that will cheer for Ford. That's the big choice in this election. We all know it's a strategic election. But let's talk about what we want from our MPPs. We want them to provide some leadership in bringing pressure on the government. How do you do that? Well, you fight. You bring everybody together to fight to turn Laurentian into Canada's mining university, the champion in that field, because that will bring jobs, that will support our mining supply sector, and that gives us a chance to get in on the critical metals boom that's coming. right? You have to put in place that kind of infrastructure. And our city is not working on it right now. I haven't seen Jamie working on it right now. I haven't seen the mayor working on it right now. And you need an MPP that will pull all the pieces, all the voices together on that one. I'll talk, if I get another chance, about the other three big planks that an MPP really has to work on to make some progress for the city. Clap.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
Forget it.
Bonjour tout le monde. Annie. My name is France Gélina. Je m'appelle France Gélina, and I'm the NDP candidate in Nickel Belt. Nickel Belt is the 7th biggest riding in Ontario. I'm here today because Doug Ford wanted to hold on to his job. Doug Ford called an election when the laws in Ontario says that we have fixed date election. The next election was supposed to be June 2nd, 2026. That's what the law says. That's what law-abiding MPPs and citizens do. But not Mr. Ford. Mr. Ford knows that the RCMP is coming after him in the spring, and that there are allegations of criminal doings around the Greenbelt, etc., that will not make him look really good. People don't like to vote for people under criminal investigation. So he called an election right now because he wants to save his job, because he wants to continue to use the power and the money that comes with being the Premier of Ontario to help his friends, to help the well-connected insiders at the expense of all of us. The expense of all of us, the number one with that things that we're going to have to pay is through health care. The Ford government has one objective when it comes to health care: privatize as much of our healthcare system as possible, because there is a lot of money to be made off the back of sick people, and his investors' friends know that. We in Ontario, the NDP, we voted against the bill that allowed privatizations, but Doug Ford has a majority, so he made it go through. We already in Ontario are opening up private MRI and CT scans. The hip and knee surgery private clinics are going to be opening up next month. They will tell you that this is to make sure we bring the wait list down. It is not. It is so that those investors can make a ton of money off the back of sick people. And for us in the north, there's no money to be made here. The big investors are not going to open up a surgical clinic and MRI in the north. It means we're going to have to drive all the way to Toronto to be able to get an MRI, or wait for months to get it at HSN. This election, we need to send a clear message to Ford that you broke the law when you called an election in February. The law says the election was in June of 2026. We don't want a premier who don't respect his own law, and we don't want a premier who puts his investor's friend ahead of everybody else's health. Merci.
A video now from Madame Labbé.
Do you need the mic? Yes, please.
If I could speak on Natalie for just a moment, please. We had some things that we wanted to make clear. You're going to see from her in just a moment. She is tired of a cynical government that wants to bribe us with Cornerstone Coronas. We do not need alcohol in stores, but some people actually think that's important. She's tired of somebody who is willing to break our healthcare system even more just to give it to corporate interests. And she's tired of conservatives that aren't allowed to talk, because if they're not allowed to talk to you, they won't be allowed to talk in Queen's Park. So, if you'll pardon my bum, I'm going to start Natalie on
Does
the
that count
computer.
as part of her time?
Perhaps.
I'm Natalie Labby, your Ontario Liberal candidate for Nickel Belt. I'm ready to bring real change to Queen's Park. I'll fight for better health care, stronger schools, and a fair deal for Northern Ontario. I was born in Sudbury and raised in Blind River. My parents worked hard to build a life here in Northern Ontario, and I understand the challenges our communities face because I've lived them. From economic development to tourism, recreation, and municipal leadership, I've spent my career strengthening our communities. And as a small business owner, I know what it means to put in the hard work. And as a once single working mother and a proud hockey mom working 2 jobs, I understand the struggles of making ends meet. I spent 7 years as an EA in the Ontario school system, and I've seen firsthand the challenges in our schools. I also work tirelessly to improve the quality of life for seniors every day in the work that I do, ensuring that they have the services and support they need, because building a better Ontario means leaving no one behind. After 47 years, the people of Nickel Belt deserve a chance at our fair share, and under the leadership of Bonnie Crombie and the Ontario Liberal Party, we can make it happen. I believe in a better future for Nickel Belt, a future where every community has the resources to thrive. From Nairn Centre, Rayside Balfour, Folliet, Bogama, Valley East, Capreol, Garson, Killarney, French River, and all points in between, including our First Nations communities and neighbours. I want to be your voice at Queen's Park. On Election Day, vote Natalie Labby. It's time for our fair share.
Excellent.
I'm Natalie Labby. You're
I'm going to get one chance at that. All right. Are we ready for some questions? All right. Well, I'm going to start with this one because it's already printed out for me. Like a lot of Dot's questions, there's a long preamble. So, okay. So this is sort of the first one is sort of a general question. So I suppose I'll give you all an opportunity to answer it then. Okay. There are 2.5 million Ontarians without a primary caregiver, nurse practitioners, and registered nurses with advanced scope of practice. The Canada Health Act needs to be amended to include nurse practitioners in the Canada Health Act. Do you support nurse practitioner-led clinics, especially in Northern Ontario? I'll start with on the other end of the funnel since we started down here.
Well, nurse practitioner-led clinic is something that is really close to my heart. The very first nurse practitioner-led clinic opened up here in Sudbury. We were the very first one. And I must say that I worked really hard to try to get this to open and have been very proud. There are 25. There's one more that is in my riding in Capreol. For the last 4 years, there was a physician, Dr. McAllister in Hanmer, who passed away suddenly, leaving many, many people without access to primary care, over 2,000. Most of them turned toward the nurse practitioner-led clinic in Capreol to try to gain access. They've put a very small request to the government to hire one more nurse practitioner so that they could look after those people. For the last 4 years, they have been asking the Ford government for a tiny, weeny, less than $500,000 on an $85 billion health budget, and the government said no. Every single time. They know that we have unemployed and underemployed nurse practitioners right here in Northern Ontario, right here in Sudbury right now. They would love nothing better than to look after us, to become our primary caregiver, either at the clinic in Lively or downtown or in Capreol, but the Ford government refuses to fund them. Therefore, the clinic in Capreol, the nurse practitioner-led clinic in Capreol, like every other nurse practitioner-led clinic, haven't seen a base budget increase in 12 years. The cost of electricity has gone up, the cost of heating has gone up, the cost of everything has gone up. Zero base budget increase. They pay their staff the same amount they were paying them in 2017. That's what their staff is being paid right now. And the Ford government, this is by design. Because if enough of us are not satisfied with our public healthcare system, then they'll say, we have a solution. And their solution, I guarantee you, will be privatization. This is by design. It is wrong. We have nurses that live here with us, that want to look after us, that want a job and can't get one because Ford says no every single year that they ask. All 25 nurse practitioner-led clinics have asked for base budget increase. They've asked to hire more nurse practitioners so that they can deal with the long wait list of people wanting their services. And the Ford government had said no, and I'll wrap up right now. But the private clinic got a 200% increase. The public sector got 0.5% increase.
Time's up, friend.
Sorry. I won't try to add to that. We're all baby boomers here. Almost every one of us is a baby boomer here. We know how much this matters. So this is a softball question. We all agree. Yes, I do. Yes, we do. And we've known for the last 20 years. And I gotta say, we've got one of the champions on this particular issue.
Archer chair there.
All right, thank you.
I'll be brief as well. I actually, this reminded me of, I was at an event once when I was Labour Council president, and I gave Eli Martel a wireless mic, and I just remember thinking, politicians can speak for a very long time. The short answer is absolutely yes. Nurse practitioners are essential to our primary care. I'm one of the about 18,000 people in Sudbury who don't have a doctor. And when I meet people who are in Austin, I tell them, give me a call when you're graduating because I need a doctor, like probably many of you in this room. And nurse practitioners can take a lot of that weight off as well. I think what we should be aiming for is the family health teams that include doctors and nurse practitioners and dietitians. It's a model that works successfully, amazingly well, and I think that's what we need to move forward with. We really need to address this. There's a photo of Tommy Douglas in the back. Our party is the party of Tommy Douglas. We will fight like hell for public health care because we know how important it is to each and every one of us. We know that they're going to starve it out. This is a conservative plan, right? Create a crisis through defunding, solve it, in quotes, by rewarding their well-connected and wealthy friends, and we will fight like hell to stop that. Thank you.
I just think that Max should have a chance to say that you guys really should be voting for him and for dismantling our healthcare system.
David will be holding a floor show later with some more of his comments. So we'll stick with healthcare. I'm just going to slightly adapt this question, Dot, okay? Because the Conservatives aren't here. So Dot asks, on behalf of the Health Coalition, funding to Northern Ontario hospitals has been restricted and cut. Our Northern Ontario community clinics, emergency departments in Northeastern Ontario have had to reduce services and some have even had to close. So given that, say on the off chance that none of your parties form government, what will you be doing in opposition, or what can you do in opposition, I suppose, to try and impede the Conservative drive for more privatization? Is that a fair question? Yeah? Would you like to start with you, Jamie? You finished last. Did you want to start? Did you want to start, Dave?
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll start with you next. Okay.
So, something that lots of conversation about family doctors. Two things we need to do immediately. One is that 40% of the time that family doctors spend is doing paperwork in forms. We, as New Democrats, we tried to pass an opposition motion to hire admin assistants that could do this paperwork for them. It's causing two issues. One is that doctors aren't seeing as many patients, and two is that doctors aren't spending time with their family. They're spending their weekends filling out forms and doing paperwork, and this is dissuading young doctors from getting family medicine. So if we're able to lessen that burden of paperwork, they see more patients, they have a better quality of life with their family, and more people come into family medicine. The second part of this is that NASM, I just met just before the election with the new executive director there, the Prevost, sorry, I got the wrong term because it's a school place, but I spoke with him and he said, we want to double the number of graduate doctors at NASM, bring it up to 100. They need funding, but the Conservative government is only committing to 2 to 3 years of funding at a time. If we want to attract family doctors from Southern Ontario to come here to teach our doctors to be the best, we cannot attract them saying that we can guarantee a job for 2 to 3 years. Our party is committed in our policy that we would fund this permanently. That we understand that when you double it to 100, that means in a few years from now, we'll have 100 doctors a year graduating, and 90% of those doctors stay in Northern Ontario. Not all of them will be in Sudbury, but 90% stay in Northern Ontario, and that is a benefit, especially because they graduated in Sudbury, and hopefully they start putting down roots in Sudbury and want to stay in Sudbury, and all of us could have family doctors in the future. Thank you.
David, do you want to take that question? I've forgotten what the question is. That's
It's about healthcare privatization and what you could do as opposition to sort of stem the tide.
Well, a minority MPP can't do anything alone. They've got to use their connections across the community to help build a political force in the city to support the healthcare system. Now, if you've got an MPP who hasn't been able to do that, get one. Because it's politics that makes Sudbury strong. And it's working together that makes Sudbury strong. And we won't get this stuff against Ford's clear attempt to take away the healthcare system. And let me add something else. This is true across Northern Ontario. Northern Ontario is getting less important to the province. We're down to 4% of the population. We're essentially a colony of Southern Ontario. We need to be running this, and we have to have the revenues in Northern Ontario to make our own decisions. I know the regular parties have to talk as if they're Ontario-based, but you know what? We need a regional government, and our MPP ought to be campaigning for it.
Thanks, Mr. Robinson.
So the question was, what can you do as an opposition MPP to stop Ford from privatizing our healthcare system? I have been an MPP for 17 years, and I have been in oppositions for all 17 years. We live in a democracy. You need people in power, and you need people in opposition. How do we move things forward in opposition? By speaking with one voice, by bringing more and more people under the tent so that we can be heard. Because we do live in a democracy, and when Ford hears us, because there is enough of us speaking with one voice aiming for the same goal, he backs down. He backed down when he was trying to take the rights of early childhood educators away. He backed down when he was trying to sell the green belt to his friends and well-connected. When we get together,